Hello and welcome to the Afro-Dominion Show. My name is Freeman Singirankabo, and thank you so very much for joining our program today. Those of you joining us live, especially if you're tuning in straight from the social media, welcome. We are so thrilled that you can find some time out of your busy schedule to join us. And those of you joining us for the rest of the platform or networks like television and radio station, welcome. We are so happy. We are so happy that you could join us today. And thank you kindly for all of you who have patiently waited for us. We are really apologizing in advance for a late start. We had another program that was happening simultaneously that we were unable to broadcast in time as we normally do. So I'd like to go right ahead and give you all a huge welcome as we always do it. It is Friday on January 28th, 2022, and let's do it as we always do it. Here in the Afro-Dominion Show, as you already getting accustomed to it, we speak frankly to you, we speak boldly to you, and we speak without any apologies. And it is in this spirit that everything we share with you, we share it in the spirit of truth, love, and trust. And these are the benchmarks by which we would love each and every one of you to measure the content of everything we share with you, especially both the integrity and the validity of the content we will be sharing with you. And as always, we also do welcome your feedbacks. We really value your feedbacks anytime you so choose to provide those feedbacks to us. And we would love to absolutely receive your feedbacks as well. And for those of you who do not know how to reach us, we can be reached via our social medias. We have plenty of social medias, but also we would love for you to link with us mainly from our website, which is www.afrodominion.com. www.afrodominion.com. You can also reach us using our main email, which is info@afrodominion.com. info@afrodominion.com. There on the website, feel free to also visit us directly. We have a group, we have a Telegram group that we would so very much love to invite you actually. Do come and join us on that Telegram group, meet other like minds, and let's get some work done. Why do I say that? On this show, at Afro-Dominion Show, we are here for action. We are not just here for words. And we want you to have an opportunity to actually put us on a scale of truth, where you can actually see whether what we speak match the action behind the scene as well. And with that in mind, I'd like to start by sharing just a little bit with you guys what is Afro-Dominion, because the show itself and the idea, it's important that you understand why we're here and what it is that you can expect from this show. So what is Afro-Dominion? Afro-Dominion is a concept. It's an idea that inspires, that advocates, and that encourages and helps actually a complete and total dominion of Africa by its sons, daughters, and African descendants, all in the interest of African people primarily and the rest of the world afterwards. And this idea entails that as African, we get to actually take back the full dominion, the full control, the full management of Africa as a continent, one country at a time, all in the interest of African people primarily and the rest of the world afterwards. So the show essentially, it's a mouthpiece of the idea. Here on the show, you can expect that we absolutely work very hard, tirelessly to inspire, to encourage, to advocate and help take back Africa, its full dominion by its sons, daughters, and African descendants, all in the interest of African people primarily, and the rest of the world come afterwards. It's important that you understand that we actually explicitly say that we are advocating, we are inspiring, advocating encouraging and helping taking back of Africa dominion by its sons, daughters, and African descendants. It's very important because when we talk about that, we're actually talking about all of you, sons and daughters and African descendants. We're talking about those of you who actually see the struggle that Africa as a continent has gone through for past few hundreds of years. The struggle against its survival, the struggle against its people, the struggle against so much injustice taking place in Africa. So you can imagine we have so much to say. You can imagine we have so many stories in the queue. You can imagine we have a history to catch up with. Hence, you seeing Afri Dominion show. All right? And so on this show, given that the idea is extremely huge, we have decided to break it down into a few themes. So we broadcast 5 times in the week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So, and every day has its own theme. On Mondays, we talk about the eradication of African refugees and African stateless persons. And this is a day where we get to discuss about our issues as refugees, our issues of our brothers and sisters who are stateless within Africa, who have been stripped of their citizenship, or who have lost their countries, even though nobody can really take away your citizenship, your birthright as a citizen of any given land, in or outside of Africa. So we get to have an opportunity to share with you, to talk with you, to interview, and to hear from those who are actually having, refugees problems, even the advocates. So if you are an advocate of African and African refugees, we will love to have you on our Mondays conversation, because that's what we strictly talk about. On Tuesdays, we get to talk about the Constitution, law and policy review and implementation. We know that Africa as a continent has one of the most amazing piece of legislatures. Unfortunately, most of it's just in the books. It never really benefits the people. So we get to have an opportunity to review a country by country how these constitutions look like. Fancy word, constitution, nothing more than agreements between people and the government, and between people and themselves. So we get to review that, we get to talk about that, and we get to actually advocate for the good things within those constitutions, so that everybody actually get to put them in action, get to experience them, get to receive the benefit out of it. And we also get to scrutinize what doesn't work, and we advocate that we actually uproot it and take it away and get rid of it. Same thing with laws and policies. We know that most of the laws and most of the policies are not drafted in the interest of African people. So we want to be in a position where we can actually draw and draft laws and policies that have African people in mind first and foremost. In the interest of African people first and foremost. The same way when you go to any of the other countries worldwide, you are now going to find a piece of legislature that benefit foreigners before it benefits citizens. So we want to make sure that you as Africans don't have any stigma, don't have any shame, to actually seek out your very best interest first and foremost, and then the interest of everybody else afterwards. Because after all, today Africa is run by foreigners, in the interest of foreigners before African interest. So it is only fair that we actually equalize the battleground, so that us as Africans, we can actually benefit for what motherland is offering us first and foremost. So on Thursdays, actually no, my apologies, on Wednesdays, we get to actually talk about our testimony. This is one of our favorite days where we actually get to talk about our own testimony. We get to write our own history. Again, Africa is in the catch-up mode for its history. It's been centuries since Africa has enjoyed its history openly, publicly. And most of its history has been buried purposely. And so we have put it upon ourselves to resurrect our own history, to rewrite our own history. So we would love for you to actually come and grab that pen, come and grab that microphone, come and get in front of a camera. Rewrite your own history. Have an opportunity for the first time to write your own history, the kind of history that is not narrated by an outsider, the kind of history that you personally can actually narrate it on your own behalf, on behalf of your family, community, and your nation. Very exciting theme and very exciting program on Wednesdays, and I'd love to welcome each and every one of you. On Thursdays, we equally have another one of my favorite, the Spirit of Dominion. That's a theme that is very close to my heart because this theme reminds me, and it allows us to also remind you that you are kings and queens of Africa. You have birthright to the core management, to the entire and full, complete management of Africa as a continent or your respective countries. You have a birthright. It is your absolute right, undisputable right, the kind of no apology right to do that. However, most of us young people, we actually believe that someone did us a favor to allow us to live in Africa, to allow us to use our own resources. You will find in places where, for instance, you may not use water because another country needs your water. So you get to buy water from another country when you have a source of water in your own country. However, because of 100, 200, 300 years of agreement that's been signed on your behalf by a foreigner, you cannot use your own water. So we want things like that to change. You cannot change that unless you are driving the vehicle, unless you are in charge of the management. Which is why I'm so excited to tell you young people, we got so much bogus, we got so much agreements to get rid of, including the so-called binding agreement. Seriously speaking, you cannot rape me. Financially, you cannot rape me. Emotionally, you cannot rape me. Psychologically, you cannot rape me intellectually. And then top it up by drafting some sort of agreement and you get them signed on my behalf and say that, by the way, these are binding. Not today and not tomorrow. So on Thursdays, we get to talk about that, and we're super passionate about it, by the way. On Fridays, we get to talk about the current event and its impact to Africa and African people. This is where you actually get to set the agenda. You get to actually talk about whatever that you have on your heart. We get to listen. You get to have a saying in it, and we keep it up. And with that in mind, since we are already super late, I'd like to go right ahead and jump into what we are going to sort of like talk to you about. Given that we don't have as much time, we're pretty much going to brush on it. And if time allows, we will have another opportunity to talk about it. So today's focus, we are going to discuss trade and cold wars among African nations. And we want to take a bite at the case of Rwanda and Uganda. So as you are aware, or perhaps are just finding out, there's been so many trade among African nations. Today, Africans are actually sort of like forming some sort of a United States of Africa when it comes to trade. In fact, just a year ago, 2 years ago, I do believe, African trade, the African nations signed a major trade, which is actually which seems to be a threat to World Trade Organization, whereas African countries will have an opportunity to share, to do trade among themselves. Something that has never been done on the African continent for millennia. Actually, let me not say millennia, for centuries. Trade has been in Africa before it was sliced into pieces. So we know that trade was amongst African empires, African kingdoms. We traded before, and we traded way, way better than the way today we trade on the continent of Africa. Because the interest back then was primarily in the eyes or for African people. Whereas today, the primary interest is for foreigners or for the outsiders. So today, trade is a big deal in Africa. Today is a big deal. It's a huge big deal amongst you Africans, even outsiders. However, how can you trade with someone who dictates the terms and you have zero saying in it? Currently, it may seem like a lot of these African countries are actually trading between themselves. However, I submit that you scrutinize these trade deals, these trade agreements, and actually see who's benefiting in these trade agreements. Who's literally benefiting? This is a question that I am posing to all of you, sons, daughters, and African descendants, even you who claim to be friends of Africa. Again, when I pose this question, or when we sit here and talk with you, we recognize that Africa is on fire as a house that has many rooms. It is our duty and our responsibility as sons and daughters and African descendants to squash the fire. In squashing the fire, me, my brothers and sisters, we get to get dirty first before we invite outsiders to do the work for us. So when you hear me feeling a bit more passionate about Africa, we absolutely do not ignore that there is an entire planet to actually sustain, since we've been doing it for many centuries. We still are very mindful. We are also mindful that there are those who have felt entitlement for those centuries, especially outsiders. We're talking about like Europeans, the Northern Americans, the Southern Americans, the Asians in the Australians continent. There are some from those continents who have felt a sense of entitlement when it comes to Africa. Whereas Africa seems to be like a personal property. So when it comes to trade, you must go through them to bless your agreement before you can trade amongst yourselves. And today, as a son of Africa, I have had the privilege and the opportunity to live in the United States. I've seen how the United States seek out its interest throughout the world. I mean, they are rough with the way they do it. And guess what? That's the spirit that every single country ought to have globally, with no exceptions. So I am not hating any country that's actually very aggressive in Africa. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to look after the very best interest of your nation. However, all apples on the table, all things equal. Africans, do you see how it's done outside of Africa? I am saying let's also seek out the very best interest of African people. The same way all these other nations are so aggressive in seeking out the best interest of their own nations. When it comes to trade, you, the people, have the opportunity to read these agreements before your ministers or the so-called ministers sign those agreements in your names or on your behalf, as it is always presented. Why do I say this? You have many broken agreements. That seems like our agreement on behalf of a company and a state, or company and another company. Again, given that the time we have, it is so little, I am going to do my best not to actually get too specific. However, trade amongst African countries, it's one of the things, it's one of the culture that African as a people, we always have enjoyed. It is in our culture to trade between ourselves. There's nothing strange about it. However, trading according to the way the European would like to have, according to the way that the World Trade Organization would like to have, according to the way the Northern American continent, the Southern American continent, the Europeans, the Asians, the Australians would like to have, that is a bit problematic. Because if they dictate the terms of your trade, whose interest is it going to be looked after? So I really would love to bring it up to your attention that trade amongst ourselves as African nation, it's one of the must do, one of the must seriously take attention to action plan. We have to get rid of everything that allows us to actually have issues amongst ourselves. We have to fight against bickering. We have to fight against those who actually bring wars amongst ourselves. You've heard of the Cold Wars. Actually, Cold War between the United States and Soviet Union back in those days. And what does it mean actually, Cold War? Sometimes I want to be mindful that some of the terms that we may use may not necessarily be the terms that everybody understands or even have the same understanding. So before I actually I pretend that all of you guys are on point or you are on the same page with me when it comes to Cold Wars, let me see if I can find a good definition for you. That way I can tell you what everybody thinks of Cold War. A Cold War, according to Google, it's a state of political hostility between countries characterized by threat, propaganda, and other measures short of open warfare. The state of political hostility that existed between the Soviet, just what I was saying, the Soviet Union countries and the United States. And that lasted a long time, between 1945 and 1990. So consequently, what has happened then actually seems like it's becoming the case in Africa. You notice that the rest of the continents don't have any open wars. Only Africa, currently, as a continent, it's a battleground for everybody. It's a lab for the newly technologically advanced weapon. Every single new weapon that is out there on the market is tested in Africa. Why? Again, because we pretty much are indispensable. You can do to us as you wish, according to the rest of the continents. Why do I think that? Because actions speak more louder than words. Look at the actions by continents. And again, this is not instigating anything. We actually talking about just open your eyes and examine. Again, look in your country. Who's fighting what? Where are the weapons coming from? Who's the primary beneficiary? Who benefits from these weapons sales? Who benefit from these wars? The trade of weapon, but you can't have trade of food. Why is it that you may have an embargo of food, but no weapons embargo? You have to think, young people. These trade deals are there not for your interest as the people primarily. Most of them, let me not say all, most of them. So if you do not take the time to read this agreement, to actually see your needs as nations, see your needs as villages, see your needs as regions, see your needs as community, and actually sign this deal based on your need, there won't be any difference between a corporation, a private corporation, coming in, making a deal, and call it a people's deal, when that private corporation is going to actually reap all the benefits, and you, the peasant, you, the poorest of the poorest, would simply keep on moving the same way you normally live your life. So we want to have an opportunity to review all of that. And with that in mind, I did tell you that we also wanted to talk about the newly make-up kiss between Uganda and Rwanda. So recently, for those of you who haven't heard, it's been 3 years. 3 years since Rwanda and Uganda were beefing. And why actually do I mention these two countries? For the longest time, I would dare say as far as 80s, Uganda has hosted many Rwandan refugees, including the refugees who are now in power. They actually were Rwandese refugees back then. They supported Museveni, President Museveni, when he was still a rebel, when he was running a guerrilla war in Uganda. And they supported Museveni taking power, and hence they enjoyed some unique privileges in Uganda, where General Museveni allowed them to actually, to have a new life in Uganda, to train, to have education, limited education, I might say, and actually join the army, have an opportunity to serve in the country of Uganda. I mean, he's done well for Rwandan people, and we do recognize that. However, ever since Uganda decided to actually wage a war towards Rwanda, 1990, and use the same Rwandan refugees to come back. And these refugees, to all of you who aren't familiar, they were mostly sons and daughters of royalties, sons and daughters of dynasties, kingdoms that used to rule Rwanda before Rwandese people claimed independence and Rwanda became a republic instead of a kingdom. So during that era, when they were abolishing kingdom, those families fled across, outside of Rwanda, from Uganda to Burundi to Tanzania and to Zaire, which is the Democratic Republic of the Congo, at least through the surroundings. They went even further, but those were the primary countries that they took refuge to. And so Museveni helped them in the 1990s, financed the war, along with the United States and a few other countries, invaded Rwanda, took over the country in 1994. Those refugees who are also Ugandan citizens took over the power in Rwanda. The Paul Kagames, all these generals, they took power. And they were part of the military in Uganda and are now running the country. So after they took power, they'd start having problems to the extent that they went on and then just completely stopped having a good relation as nations. And the whole Cold War started, hence me talking about the case of Rwanda and Uganda. So Cold War between Rwanda and Uganda has been going for at least 10 years, if not more. You hear of spies, you get to hear of instability, you get to hear of who's doing what and why. But also, you get to hear of how Uganda as a country wanted to boss around Kagame. Remember, Uganda financed the war. The entire operation financed by Uganda. Uganda was like a proxy state. Many countries, including the United States, provided some weapons, provided logistics, provided the training. And Uganda also had its own little puppets or its own little foot soldiers to go on the front of the war. So they fight, but then later on they fell apart. Kagame wanting to actually now be his own man, he decides that, you know what, I no longer subscribe to the agreements that we have. I want to do my own thing. Museveni says, no, can't do. You still owe us some money, this and that. It's a long thing. So they start beefing. They start having issues. Who's spying what? People getting imprisoned, people getting arrested, people getting killed, and so on. To the extent that in 2019, the border of Rwanda and Uganda was completely shut. Minding you that Rwanda relies on Uganda for trade. Uganda was one of the main route that Rwanda uses to bring in food. Now, we also do have Tanzania, we also have Burundi, we also have the Democratic Republic of the Congo. However, Uganda is much more favorable as an easiest route to bring goods and services to Rwanda or even Burundi and, you know, across other nations. And the closure of that border became such a huge problem towards the people. Politically, very well motivated, because someone want to even up the scores, the little fight between them, but guess who will get to actually bear the burden? You, the people. So there was no longer any trade between Uganda and Rwanda since 2019. And also, let's be frank, when we talk about this trade, we're talking about you average people. Trade continued, okay, between Uganda and Rwanda, but it continued on higher level, on those who could not actually stand by seeing the goods and services being stuck on the border. Trade continued, but not for an average citizen, just for the exclusive club of those giants who can actually, who can sneeze and things happen. And now, this is why I'm actually bringing to your attention, and I ask a question: what's behind a sudden make-up kiss between Rwanda and Uganda? Most of the Rwandese community, even Ugandans, are actually a bit nervous about that. Those who are absolutely against it, they remember the war raged by the Ugandan people back in 1990. They remember the genocide. They remember the after-genocide genocide. They remember the Congolese genocide. There's so much that when you speak of Uganda, the vibes of Rwandese people isn't all that glitter, isn't all that glamorous. However, Rwanda and Uganda, they're brothers and sisters. So these trade wars between Rwanda and Uganda has actually split families the same way when the colonized split Africa, they never knew where your family was. For instance, part of Rwanda went to Uganda, part of Rwanda went to the Congo, the then Zaire, and part of Rwanda went to Tanzania, and certainly Rwanda and Burundi also were sliced. since it was irrelevant to the colonizers to mind the families or union, they just sliced it up. Even during the trade, there is someone who's big enough up there who actually sneezes and the borders open. And then they feel like they got offended, they are offended, and the borders are closed again. So again, you the people, I am asking you guys to examine in whose interest are you opening and closing these borders. People are afraid because around these borders you find many deaths. However, I also want to give a credit where credit is due. The fact that they also trying, it's something all right. So you have, you have Rwandans Paul Kagame and Ugandan general, who happens to be the son of President Museveni, and that's none other than Lieutenant General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, the son of President Museveni. Recently came to Rwanda, or went to Rwanda to talk to Paul Kagame, and the conversation yielded into a border of Rwanda and Uganda being opened. Now that's on January 31st, if my memory serves me correct. So now they speak, and all of a sudden the 3 years standoff becomes a thing of a yesteryear. However, the Ruhengeri border is now opened, and the Byumba border isn't open either. Due to COVID-19, I love COVID-19. Everything is COVID-19. No logistics to handle COVID-19. How come we don't have any borders between, air borders? Planes have been going back and forth. Trade has been unaffected through air, especially ever since COVID struck the rest of the planet. Air trade hasn't been affected. Mark my words, guys. So when you hear of border closures or trade being affected on the borders, again, it is because we're talking about you, the people. We are not talking about the high stakeholders who actually are what I can call, for the lack of better word, the managers of these trade deals. Anything that brings the best interest for them has to keep on going with or without any COVID-19. And again, there are examples. I am absolutely not exaggerating here. There are open examples. Well, going back to Rwanda and Uganda, there's a buzz of many things happening. However, personally, I am asking, how is it that the Ugandan people have waited for 3 years? How is it that the Rwandese people have waited for 3 years before the borders were open? Given that across the street on the Rwandan border, it's your family. Given that across the street on the Ugandan border is your family. It's been like this for a very long time. For many years, even before Kaguta Museveni was the president, even before the days of President Paul Kagame. We have families on both borders. So are we going to actually allow political match, political game, influence our everyday life? Some people see this agreement, some people see this little gesture to Virage Urugwiro as a preparation, as a little check that Lieutenant General Muhoozi has accomplished something, that these reopenings of borders aren't going to be as fruitful as people are usually accustomed to. So you, the people, both on the Ugandan side and the Rwandan side, we truly hope that your eyes are open. See whose interest it is. Fight for your own interest when it comes to these, when it comes to these trades. It is vital that you families and our families stay united. And it's vital that we do not become political balls. You get tossed around anytime it is befitted for a politician. Be it local politician, national politician, even international politicians. And I submit to you again, look at the agreements that have been made. Look at the mediations that have been taking place between Rwanda and Uganda. Also look around the African continent. What's been happening when it comes to these Cold Wars? What's been happening when it comes to this trade and the trade deals? For those of you who do not follow, I would so very much love to ask you to wake up. Do not be distracted. So much is happening that right now the best thing that can happen for a politician, it's something that can actually just close your eyes for just a little bit longer for the things that are being implemented to actually take effect. Do not be distracted, young people. Do not be distracted. There are forces stronger than all of us, completely separated, that are actually influencing our daily lives. Forces stronger than these leaders of ours, to the extent that they can tell them, open the borders by January 31st. That is not a negotiation that has taken place, young people. It is an order to reopen the borders. Listen to what I'm saying. So you wonder who gives the order. And both nations say, yes, sir. That's a homework for you guys to go and research. When we say there are forces stronger than all of us separated, that's why I keep on telling you, we must unify as African. We must unify as African sons, daughters, and African descendants. It is the only way we can be able to get out of the Goliath. These forces have been holding us down as a continent for centuries. Even though they are awakening right now, we still have to unify for us to be able to take back the full control, taking back the full dominion of Africa. With you in charge, trade is going to be nothing. You can trade with whom you choose to trade like. With us in charge, we can get rid of these Cold Wars. There's no need to fight another brother and sister, especially if it so turns out to be your cousin. If you need to fight, take it in your families. But do not bring it on the nation platform where you actually label it as a country-to-country wars. Keep them family wars. Fight as much as you need to fight. When you're done, get back to the country business. So, young people, I want to ask you, what is your role in these Cold Wars taking place in Africa? You young Rwandans in particular. When we talk about propaganda, when we talk about you being able to follow what goes in and out of your country, politically, trade-wise, economically, health-wise, so much is happening. But unfortunately, most of us are asleep. Most of us are being ran the same way you run a sheep or a herd of sheep. Which is why mainstream media is super excited about this opening borders. You can tell whose interest it is when something is announced in the mainstream media. Why is it so important? Why is it so important? Have you actually taken the time to see what's right underneath of the hood? That's the real story. What's right underneath of the hood of Rwanda and Uganda making up, kissing, like like nothing has happened for these past 3 years? What's behind the urgency to reopen the border as early as January 31st? What's behind that? You, young people, you must be able to dig it up. Even the so-called politicians who do not follow. I would imagine that you who call yourself politician either on the Ugandan side or Rwandan side, that you are actually aware of what's happening. And hopefully you work for the people, not for any one of these other stakeholders. If you work for the people, I would really hope that you are following what's happening. I will really hope and pray that you are involved, that you are reading, genuinely reading, because us, the people, we are going to need the full scoop, the full 411 on what's happening. Some of us, we get to dig and we figure it out whether you share with us or not. But we would hope and we would love each and every one of you to also dig enough that you can actually piece all the pieces, all the puzzles together. If you look closely, nothing is really in secret. It's all out there. It's all open. However, because we have drunk the Kool-Aid, we cannot see some of the obvious thing that we should be seeing right now. Which is why I am saying to you guys, what is your role, young people, in what's happening today? Especially when we talk about the reopening of Rwanda and Ugandan border. What is behind the reopening of the borders? Think about it, young people. But I submit to you that it's not by accident. And I submit to you that another force stronger than Kagame and stronger than Lieutenant General Muhoozi has made that happen. The question, are you interested in knowing what's going on? Are you interested in actually digging and finding out why is it happening right now? Why not a year ago? Why not 2 years ago? Why did it actually become a point where they both closed down? These are the things that we're going to have to deal with, young people, especially if we claim to want to take the whole entire full control, dominion of Africa. You have to chew the food. You can no longer be fed milk. And sincerely speaking, by the way, and no disrespect, things happening right now, if you seriously want to take back the whole entire Africa, the whole entire management, the full dominion of Africa, you got to do better than just read the news on social media, read the news on the internet, watch the news on your local television. You got to do more than that, because so much is happening, and most of it not in your best interest, by the way. I need to strongly put it out there. So what are you going to do, young people, to actually secure the people's interest first and foremost? Where do you start? Who do you side with? Who do you trust? These are questions that actually bring you stress, may bring you worry. But I submit to you, worry not. What you're looking for is already inside of you. Truthfully speaking. You are already a leader. You are already a leader. You simply need to wake it up. Wake the giant inside of you all over again. Wake it up. But also remember, whose side are you actually fighting for? Are you fighting on behalf of the people, or are you fighting on behalf of the other guys? And I would hope that it is the people that you're fighting for. We got the gifts, guys. We have the gifts to manage, to control, to govern Africa and its entire resource without the interference of outsiders. We have the power, the will, the desire to review all agreements and get rid of the ones that do not work, the ones that haven't worked, the ones that have actually marginalized us as a people and created wealth for so many outsiders, while your cousins became poorer and poorer until poverty also came knocking on your doors. So I will submit to all of you that the fight that we have today, it is not just a fight for your nation alone. It is also a fight for all African people. We are interconnected, guys. What's happening to the Rwandese people today is no different than what's happening to the Burundian, to the Congolese, to the Ugandans, to the Tanzanians, to the Ethiopians, to the Kenyans, to the Eritreans, to the Angolians, to the South Africans. You can stretch it as far as Senegal or as far as Egypt. Same things are happening to all of us. However, because we are so close-minded to each other's businesses, especially the sort of business that we all share in common, we have no time to scrutinize and see, wait, is this the same thing that's taking place in your country as well? What is the common denominator in the whole mess that's taking place? You young people who are actually following, I would love each and every one of you to really pay attention to what I'm saying. There is a common denominator in every mess that we have right now in Africa. There is a common denominator. I would even dare say common denominators. Find what that common denominator is in your country. Find out. If you cannot find out what is the common denominator in your country, in my country, then we still have a long way to go. And some of the information that could be also shared with you, it will be like day and night. It will be meaningless to you. Which is why I am saying to you, get off milk, come and chew a steak. Some of the content that we are so longing to share with you, we are waiting for you to open your mind, to have an open mind, so that you don't get choked. You don't get choked by the information. The same way, if you feed a baby a meat, that baby might actually end up getting choked and die. There's some information that we just won't share with you, just like that. Because most of you aren't prepared mentally to receive, or you may end up actually fighting us over it. Even though we don't mind you fighting us, if it's medicine, you're still going to have to take the medicine. But there is a method to the madness in all of this, and you need to get on point with that as well. So again, young people, especially here, I'm actually addressing to all of you Africans out there. What is so special? What is so special about Cold Wars amongst us as Africans? What is so special about it? And listen to the words that I'm choosing to use. I'm not crazy. Cold Wars amongst you, families. Who gains when you have a Cold War between the both of you? Or as many as you can call out. If you take a unique, just one country and find out who gains in this predicament, is it you, the people, or someone else is gaining? And this is where sometimes it becomes so disheartening when you see the so-called African politician. So young people, again, I really want to submit it to you. What you're seeking is not out there. It's really inside of you. Be it resolving the bickering between two nations, as Rwanda and Uganda have been beefing for 3 years, or between many nations. But as the people, we have to be the one at the full front of the understanding. Because even when it all started, it started because somebody got upset with another person. A politician started it, not you, the people. A politician started it and decided that it was the time for that politician to exercise the muscle. And you went along. And that's literally what happened between Uganda and Rwanda. Someone wanted to show that, hey, I got the biggest testosterone than you do. And you, the people, became casualty. On one side, it would be a remiss not thanking the unknown for imposing to tell the both kids, hey, enough with the bickerings. Open the borders by January 31st with no discussions. But then at the same time, I wonder, why is it that us, the people, we couldn't do that ourselves? The unity issue. The forces behind Museveni, the forces behind Kagame, can tell him to stop fighting overnight and the war stops. Because what they're working for and who they're working for isn't primarily in the interest of the people. Again, go do some research, young people. Scrutinize what's been happening for these past 3 years. especially those of you in political science fields. Hopefully you have been following, hopefully you have been paying attention, hopefully you have some lessons that you have drawn out of the experience. Because if you haven't, we are just going to be political balls that gets to be tossed around anytime, anywhere, based on who feels like they just want to toss you around. And it's regrettable that we are living in this era where you, the people, do not have a saying in your own affairs. And it is for this reason that we invite you to come and take back what is rightfully yours. Be it Ugandans, be it Rwandans, be it Burundians, be it Tanzanians, be in the DRCs. You, the people, take back control. Let's take a little back. All of us Africans, let's take back control. Let's take back the full dominion. We must take it. We must take it all back for the greater interest of our own people, first and foremost. But I also should warn you, the more you fight for that, then you realize that those forces I am mentioning right now, prepare for a fight. Because that won't be falling down on your laps. I guarantee you. But the good news also to those forces, we can coexist the same way we have done it for centuries. And this is our season to take it all back, whether you guys like it or not. It's our season. It is our seasons. This is our season specifically for the sons, daughters, and African descendants to take back the entire Africa management, the full dominion of Africa, all for the interest of the African people first and foremost. Don't worry, we won't forget you guys. We cannot dare forget you. Africa is the mother of everybody. She cannot forget the rest of her children. But the greedy ones, we got to put you in timeout. We literally have to put you in timeout. Which means we also have to grow to be able to take on the challenge. We have to grow to assume the responsibility. We have to grow to assume the accountability. We have to grow to clean our houses, which is why I am still calling all of you guys. Pay attention to what's happening. Wake up. Don't just read the newspaper and say kumbaya. Dig further. Dig harder than a news agency. There's so much to share with you, and so little time to share it with you. But you have to do the homework on your own to most of these things. But one way or the other, we're going to get it done. We have to get it done. We absolutely have to get it done. So that's the word that I have for you guys. And I literally want to ask that all of you just keep your mind open, keep your eyes open. There's so much to come. There's so much going on. But if you're not following, you are going to fall behind. And I pray that you talk to your Father in heaven, that He comes through, that He actually enables you, who empowers you, and you become fearless, and you trust Him and only Him to guide you towards the season that's coming for us. If you don't have the heart for it, you may end up getting a heart attack. And I'm not talking about the intentional heart attack, the natural heart attack. We have gotten too accustomed to getting intentional heart attacks, but this time around, prepare yourself. Africans, sons, daughters, and African descendants. because something is coming that even you won't be able to stop. Let me thank our colleagues. Let me thank HMG Network. Let me thank the affiliates for having aired this broadcast, even though we were a little bit behind the time today. We had so many other programs taking place, as you are fully aware. But we are super grateful that you can also still receive our signal, that you can still allow the broadcast to go through. Thanks to our technicians for having also played a key role in making sure that the broadcast take place. And for those of you who are still behind us, those of you who want to send us some feedbacks, be it you, the viewers, we welcome your feedbacks as always. Go to our domain or our website, afridominion.com or www.afridominion.com. Check us up on the social medias, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, what have you. But also be sure to leave us an email. Leave us a message through your email, through our email. And our main email is info@afridominion.com. You can also feel free to give us a call. Our phone number is, I'm not going to tell you. Go to the website so you can be able to get it. I am so accustomed to mentioning our phone number somewhere else. But for you, go to the website if you so choose, or if you want to get in touch with us. A huge thanks to all of you viewers, especially those of you on social media. I see you, Major Zuzu. I see you, Fidel. I see you, Mary. I see you, Claire. I see you, Johnny. I see you, Mutoni. I see you, Clark. And those of you also who are joining us either on Facebook or YouTube, we are super grateful, guys, that you've been hanging out with us. And I want to wish you guys a beautiful weekend. Have yourself a great Friday to those of you who are already preparing for a holiday or an extended weekend. I want to wish you a beautiful Friday. Have a great Friday. Some of you who have already arrived on Saturday, happy early Saturday. And for the rest of you, I want to wish you a great weekend. Until we see you back again on Monday, may God be with you. Be safe in all that you're doing. And God bless. I am Freeman Singirankabo with Afri Dominion Show. So long.